Welcome to Eye on the Illini. This is Mike Cagley here with Brad Sturdy, Kedric Prince. Probably be a fired up podcast, although, in fairness, this is a game that is happening in December, so we can't get too freaked out about it. Brad, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's a disappointing loss because they look like they had kind of turned a corner a little bit against Arkansas, but at the end of the day, they're just not they're still young and they played like a young team down the stretch. I thought the physicality of this game gave them trouble again. That's the games that have given them difficulty have been games when the other team is very physical. And then the other side of it is I feel like you can't shoot. Take out KJ shooting 6 for 10. Everybody else is 3 for 24. You can't shoot that poorly. You can't, and a lot of those shots. I mean, Humrickhouse, Boswell, Riley, wide open shots. I mean, like just wide open shots. You got to make them. And then the other side is they miss shots at the rim. Boswell missed a layup late. I'm not picking on him, but those are shots you got to make. That you if you don't make them, you're probably going to lose on the road. So, and I think the offense lost this game. The defense was not great, especially in overtime. But for the most of the game, the defense was actually okay. But it was in overtime they fell apart, and the offense needed to score more than 56 points.
Well, a couple of things for me. The game matters to me, Mike. Sorry if it's in November, or excuse me if it's in December. Brad, I love you, man, but I disagree with you. Okay, they got exposed. 2 or 3 guys that got exposed tonight. Northwestern, they purposely went at them to attack them. And I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to sit here and bash anybody because, a lot of people are frustrated. But when you give up 70 points, which is not bad to me in Big Ten basketball, it's not. You should have won the game. They didn't shoot the ball well tonight. One thing that I guess that scares me, concerns me, is Ben Humrickhouse. I know, Brad, you and I both know how good he is in pick and roll and all those things, but at Illinois, he's just a stand-up guy in the corner who can shoot threes. I think he adds more value than that, but that's not what they want him to do right now. I just look at it from a defensive standpoint, and I look at the scouting. This was a tailor-made scouting report to pass to every coach in the Big Ten because what I saw tonight, I saw guys get exposed because they couldn't guard, and no matter how tall, how small, or what they did, it just didn't work. I mean, you're right. They have to make shots. That's the ultimate, at the end of the day, they put the ball in the basket. You cannot – they hold Northwestern to 4 of 21 from 3, and which is horrible, and you still lost. And then you go 9 for 34, and Ben Humrickhouse is 1 of 9. That's not going to get it done. Then you shoot 37% from the game. It's ugly. There's nothing great about this game. And I think it's a bad loss because when Purdue lost at Penn State last night, you got to win these games. And I don't care if Northwestern fans get mad. Illinois is a better basketball team.
Well, I will say one thing, and this is where Brad and I coach differently and Brad's been way more successful than me, so we can't really argue on that. But I've always told my 3-point shooters, you go 0 for 3 in the first half, I'm probably going to go to another guy. And then if you're 0 for 3 in the second half, I'm gonna get you out there again. And if you go 0 for 4, you're probably not going to go 0 for 5. Just depends on when the ball goes out of bounds. But I thought Morez, was one that was more active. But I think more importantly, like Martinelli, he's a guy you love to hate. You love him if he's on your team. You hate him if he's on the other team. And Illinois has historically struggled with guys like that because he's willing to do whatever. He'll knock Morez down and they aren't going to call a foul. He'll do something else again. And he's a tough dude. And Illinois it just seems like not to know how to respond to a guy like that. And it's clear that Martinelli didn't want to lose this game. And I think sometimes, the intensity of an older player like that is something that's hard, at least early in the season, for freshmen to match.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, Mike. I think that he's a little bit tougher. But, I think sometimes I don't know why and I don't want to go here, but we look at Martinelli and Barnheiser and we just think they're not good at basketball. Both guys are scoring over 20 points a game. They don't
we
look
don't
like.
know why people think that, Brad.
I know
What?
but
Yeah, I do.
yeah, but you know what I'm saying. They score 20 points a game, and so they're good players. I thought they did a really good job on Martinelli for most till the end of the game in overtime, and then they got exposed. But at the end of the day, you only scored 56 points in regulation, and you can't win scoring 56 points in regulation with this team. And so they have to be better offensively. I thought they still make sloppy turnovers, just lackadaisical stuff, getting the ball picked from them for no ball security, ball toughness wasn't there. I think you saw Illinois. I'll tell you another microcosm. And KJ was fantastic. I mean, he made some huge shots. He's great. I think what did he end up? 20 points, 10 rebounds. I don't know, 7 assists, something like that. I mean, great game. But I got to give him props. But at the end of the game, his last driving layup, for perspective, you saw him get away from the defender instead of going into the defender
to get the foul.
Go into that guy, and that's just the difference because it's not the game. He's not as physical as some of these other guys, even though he's got a good frame. He hasn't played that against that physical nature. And I do agree. I thought the game changed at 1:59 to go. Illinois comes out of a timeout. And they're up 5. They get an offensive rebound after a shot. And Riley comes off and just takes a quick, wild 3. Some Fedigators talking about this right here just mentioned that. He takes that quick, wild 3, and then Illinois immediately fouls and in transition. And so you give them 2 points, and you basically cut it to 3, and nothing changed. And so this is it's wild when you think about that. I think that's just an interesting, just little things in the game, that kind of change this. And I don't know that was the play they drew up. I have no idea if that was the play they drew up. It certainly wasn't the play I would have drawn up at that point.
Well, I'm going to take a different perspective because I don't know either. But Brad, it kind of looked like it was. It looked like, Riley not Riley, but KJ went right, and he did the dribble drag, and then Riley was wide open, but it looked bad because one, it was like 24 feet, then he kicked his legs out, which is no longer getting those calls anymore. So I wish he would just go straight up and down and be effective. He's a good shooter. Quit looking. It's not working anymore. I've been kind of critical of KJ's turnovers. Well, I want to say something about Will Riley. You're a good shooter. They're not going to call that, in my personal opinion. I think the game was when Kylan Boswell went down the lane and he missed that wide open layup underneath the basket. I think they would have put them up 3 or 4 at that time. Then they came on this court, and I believe they either lost the lead or something. That was another deterring factor for me. There was another key point. Every year that they seem to put a team together, no matter how good they look, it's going to take a while. And this team is young, but they're young, but they look really, really good. And I'm going to go back to my little childhood days here real quick. If I was like in 7th grade, the one jersey I would buy on this team would be Ibisic. I love that kid. He is one of my favorite players to ever play. He is just quietly just effective as hell. He does everything right. He blocks shots. He rebounds. He shoots threes. He can pass. I would never fit in a jersey again, obviously, but I love watching him play, and he doesn't get rattled, very much. But he's 21. He's a freshman, but you can tell the game doesn't speed up for him. He is who he is, and I love that.
Well, this is Brad highlighted it. This is a big game coming up against Wisconsin because one of those 2 teams is going to start off 0-2, and that's not ideal. And so it is a big game, and Illinois is going to have to, like you guys said, you got to draw contact, not go away from it, and then wonder why the foul wasn't called. And it doesn't take long for Big Ten refs to decide somebody fits in that category, and then it does. It is hard to get that. I know ultimately, as I look at this team, to me, again, you got to hit open shots, and that's where you guys you've heard me for years say that, I worry like, oh, is this team going to shoot as well as we had hoped? And I think this is actually a very good shooting team, but now they have to prove it on the road. And let's face it, it's not that easy when you're in front of a crowd in a Big Ten school where they're all rooting against you, and you have that going on. The other thing I do think too is you have to hit the boards a little harder. You know, you got to make sure, if you're the more athletic team, you have to make sure to win that battle and make sure that you get that thing as definitively as you can. And to me, 44 to 43 is you want more of a gap against that when you're playing Northwestern.
Yeah. Now, looking at numbers, Northwestern's actually a good rebounding team.
I agree.
They are good. But the biggest thing that I notice is, so you look at this game, Illinois has been one of the top free throw shooting teams in the country in getting to the line. I mean, they've shot a ton of free throws thus far. They shot 9 in regulation tonight. That's a travesty. I mean, the Big Ten, I'm sorry, it's just a travesty when the games are like this. I don't understand why you want the games.
So what are you saying, Brad? Was it the players, or do you think was it the officiating? I mean, like, am I not following you here? Because I think it was officiating. Is that what you're saying, or do you think it was just the way Illinois played?
I'm saying that. Well, I think Illinois missed shots. They missed a lot of open shots, but I also think the way the game is played is terrible. I mean, it's terrible basketball to watch. To watch these guys walk down, get grabbed, held, can't cut through a lane. You go off a screen, you're going to get bumped. It's just, you don't see games like this, right? Right now, you're not seeing games like this in the SEC because they're the best conference in basketball. You don't see many games like this in the Big 12, you know, but you see these every night in the Big 10.
I said that at halftime.
Now, you can say that, okay, well, it's just because this and that. Well, you can make all the excuse you want. Oh, it's great scouting. I'm sure that's all true. But I'm telling you, the way it's officiated is different. Back when the ACC, those Duke, Carolina, back when they were good, the ACC sucks now too, so they're going to have games like this too. But this is just what holds the Big Ten back when they get in the postseason. You can't call games. Games can't be like this. This isn't the way basketball is meant to be played. You know, and I don't understand it.
Well, it's been an institution for 20 years, right?
I'm sorry.
It's been an institution for 20 years. I mean, we've watched ever since, Bobby Knight, 40 years. Bobby Knight with the grab and hold man-to-man, and then it was Gene Cades.
But you know what? Those guys scored.
They did. They found a way.
They scored. They grabbed and held. They scored. You can't score in this stuff because the way it's called and the way it's played, you can't do it. I mean, go back and look at how many points Purdue averaged in the 1980s. Yeah. And Gene, they were grabbing and holding each other.
Well, that's because but that was because Katie scared the hell out of the refs, so they still got their requisite free throw.
But you know what? I think they called more fouls. I think now it's like, we don't want to call fouls. When's the last time a guy really?
Maybe that's it, Brad.
When's the time the guy got really in foul trouble? Like we used to take them out when they got two. Now we take them out when they get 2 fouls.
Outside the Kofi.
Yeah. I mean, but you shouldn't take them out when they get 2 fouls anymore because they probably don't call fouls anymore. I mean, they're not going to call them anymore because it's like you almost have to decapitate someone half the game, and then of course they go through a stretch when we're going to call every ticky-tack foul that we see. And I get there are continuation play. Like you don't want to. I understand. Like if a guy's beating a guy and he's got a layup, you don't want to call that foul on the perimeter if he's got a guy in his hip. You don't want to call it and take away the basket. The problem is when you get there and then you miss the layup, it's bad. I mean, that's when you really, then it looks bad. But but I get some of it, but it becomes a dog. And I'm not saying Illinois lost because of that, because it's not like Northwestern shot a bunch of free throws either. But it was just one of those things where it's just a weird way to play the game. Why you want to play that? Illinois got a taste of their own medicine from a year ago because you saw Martinelli just booty ball guys, and then we saw Brooks Barnheiser shooting that little Marcus Damask like one-legged fadeaway in the paint. Those are, and if you ask Brad Underwood, he wants Barnheiser shooting those shots, contested twos. And Ty Berry, they wanted him shooting contested twos. But at the end of the day, you're getting 3 on the other end. You're getting a wide open 3 on the other end. If you miss it and they make it, you're going to lose.
Well, see, that's what I want to say here. I mean, real quick, you know what? You talk about officiating. There was a play. I put a note on my phone. You guys remember with 13:02 on the clock, Morez Johnson, I think Ibises throws a lob to him, a pass. He tries to catch the ball, gets knocked under the basket, and Robbie Hummel says, "Welcome to the Big Ten." That's BS. That's a foul. And that's exactly what you're saying, Brad. We said that we talked about it at halftime. You could clearly see it was a foul. And I don't, and again, I'm not saying that's why they lost the game. I'm saying they lost the game because they shot too many threes. And what I'm going to say is this. That's fine if you want to be a three-point shooting team. And I love it because that's what I did. And I think it's great when shots go in. But when they don't go in like tonight, this is what you're going to get. So you have to, in my opinion, have another way to score or to get guys baskets because you're not going to shoot the way you shot against Arkansas every night. I'm sorry, you're not going to. And I can damn well bet you Wisconsin is going to do the same thing. They saw the same playbook that Northwestern is using. They're going to do the same thing. Doesn't matter if it's at home or not. It's irrelevant. You got to make shots, and if you're not making them, you better get to line and make free throws or find a way to score points because teams are going to do it. And for all those people out there listening, we're not saying Illinois lost the game because of it. Brad, I don't know if you've ever been told this or not, but I mentioned it at halftime. I've talked to a number of recruits that don't want to play in the Big Ten for that reason. You talk about the NBA, and you look at all the past NBA successful guards and stuff, they didn't come from the Big Ten because you're not allowed to showcase your talent because it's nothing but a grab fest, and it's too physical. The game shouldn't be played that way. Keith Kimball's a great official. I saw him officiate tons of games in non-conference, and today he swallowed his whistle. It just makes no sense to me. It's not pretty, and they're not going to change it. Coach Underwood thinks it's all coaching and scouting. Maybe it is, but whatever it is, it wasn't pretty tonight. I didn't like that.
Well, and look, and I want to be real clear. I don't put this at the feet of the referees caused Illinois to lose. I put this in the feet of the referees make the game crappy to watch, and I'm sure the players think it's crappy to play at times when you don't know what's going to be called. But again, to me, I just would rather watch the guys get to use their talent. And I go back to me, the reason I prefer college hockey over NHL is college hockey is speed, and they let the players play, and you don't have one or two goons on every team who go out there and try to, and knock the talented players around so they can't use their skills. So again, Ked, we've talked about this before. I've had the same experience down here in Dallas. People are like, yeah, I don't want to go play. And and it's funny because they don't know me, but they're like, I don't want to go play in the WWE. So, the Big Ten has a reputation for that. And that goes down to whoever is supervising the referees, because the referees do what they're told. If they're told to do this or do that and you want to get a job, you have to do it. So to me, this is something under the control of the league, either through the league itself or through the supervisor that they are empowering. And somebody ought to shake him by the head and go, by the neck and say, come on, man, make this thing watchable. Because 5.1 million people who watched Illinois play Arkansas, they don't want to watch Illinois get grabbed and clutched and fouled, or anybody for that matter. But in the end, you got to figure out how to play through that. In Illinois, these guys are young, and they're going to get a lesson on Tuesday night, right? It's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is I don't know that Wisconsin has those guys at those two positions.
Right.
Tanjay's physical, but you're going to put a smaller. He's not a power forward.
Right.
So, and I don't understand it. But here's my other question: why is there why is Trey White like falling out of favor? He starts and then he doesn't play, and I get maybe they're trying to bring Will Riley. I don't know. Maybe they promised Trey was going to start. I don't know for sure what exactly went on there, but they're starting Trey White, and then it doesn't matter how well he plays. He's not going back in, right? Just at the end of the day, and I'm not even saying that he should go in for Will Riley all the time, but why can't he play the 4 at 6'6"? Why can't he play 4? He would have been a better matchup for Martinelli than, everyone, Morez maybe, yes, But with Merez, you're putting another freshman out there. So I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would give Trey White a chance to play the 4 more and use the smaller guards.
Ked, you're muted.
Please forgive me. It's tough because I would have much rather tonight, if it was me coaching, Merez would have played. Merez played a total, I believe, 12 minutes, 5 rebounds, and he was a productive. I think from a defensive standpoint, and Brad has done a good job because Mike and I both like seeing him and Ibises play together. He would have been the guy to me in the last 10 minutes of the game. If Ben was going to go 1 for 9, and they were picking on him, okay? Ray Charles could see that. I'm really sorry, and Stevie Wonder could clearly see they were attacking him. Merez is big enough to where he may have been strong enough to where those shots wouldn't have worked. And coach put him in, then he put him back out in 15 seconds. And I'm telling you, and everybody's going to do it to him until he can learn how to play defense or to be effective and he tried. I felt bad because he was frustrated, but it was clearly obvious. And I just think Merez has gotten better. He scored 6 points. And another guy, Brad, you talk about Trey White. You're right. I don't think he was that bad tonight. And I will tell you another guy. Can you imagine if Draymond Gibbs Longhorn and Colin Boswell were both guarding the ball? Colin does a great job, and Draymond does a good job of guarding the ball. They made it tough. And so, I mean, whatever it takes to win a game, I would do anything, whether if I had to play zone, play with 4 people, play with 2 people, play with one dude with 1 leg. It doesn't matter. Win the game. And then you fix whatever you need to fix later because they need to make adjustments because, to me, in the second half, Northwestern knew what they were going to do. And if they don't make adjustments and if Ben's not making shots, they're going to continue to do it to him.
Well, what I do like about what happened this time is I think Northwestern did dictate, and I think that's a great opportunity for coach to say, okay, we were trying to react to them versus going back and doing what we need to do. But the more when I think about this though, despite everything that people are concerned about, if they make threes the way they're capable of, they win this game. And so some of this goes back to, they basically they gave up 56 points and they didn't win the game. And that, that goes back to shooting. I mean, I'm like, if Brett Bielema lost a game that went into overtime and it was tied up at 13, you're going to yell at the defense. You're going to say, we got to do a little more on offense.
Yeah.
And
exactly. And that's what I was saying. Northwestern scored 56 points in regulation on 63 possessions. That's 0.888 points per possession. That's not good. That's not bad defense. And I know that the matchups, they got some points late, but overall, that's not bad defense. The problem was the offense became, they were up 46-36 with a little over 10 minutes to go, scored 10 points in the last 10 minutes. They scored 10 points in the last 10 minutes. They didn't turn the corner. They didn't get in the paint. Northwestern's getting paint touches. Illinois got no paint touches down the stretch. They stopped getting in the lane and kicking out there. And KJ made some. I'm not going to say he didn't, but you have to get in the paint. And some of that is, I get it, they're physically not strong enough. And I don't even think Ivasic is strong enough. I mean,
they pushed him off the blocks every time, Brad. I mean,
the
first half, they pushed him out, and I thought this is going to be a long night. Because thank God he can make 3-pointers because you're right. They took him right off the blocks, and he was not effective down there.
Yep. No, and I agree. I think the only guy who's probably strong enough right now is Boswell, but he's 6 foot tall. You know what I mean? So it's a tough thing. So I don't know. That's I just don't I didn't understand that kind of why they did that. They just didn't do a good job there. And I get it. I know there's a lot of everybody wants Merez Johnson to play more. I get it. He's good. And I'm going to call back to some things that I used to have when I coached. Sometimes, when guys look great in their role, they look great in their role. That doesn't mean they're always going to look great in a larger role.
Like the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And so this guy's still a freshman. He does some great things, but his best role is being an active guy on defense and running the floor. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't have subbed him in to play defense at the end of the game and do things like that, use him more. But I think sometimes we when a guy's effective in his role, allow him to be effective in his role. And that's where we kind of, struggle. And, Mike and I disagree on the shooting thing either. I mean, back when I coach, like, if you have good shooters, they're going to make shots. Like, if I missed, I once had a game, I went 3 for 15 in the first half, and I went 15 for 20 in the second half as a shooter, because I knew I was going to make it. And I get there, and you just go and you start making everything. So this is, I'm like, let guys play. Shooters are going to play. If they're a good shooter, they're going to make shots eventually. It didn't happen for Hum Rickhouse tonight. It didn't happen for Boswell, and didn't happen for, well, any of them, but KJ. But I do think, like, sometimes it's, and also they have to play through these situations. They have to play through tough situations on the road in a physical game. This is a learning thing. And I know everybody wants to win every game. We're worried that this is going to be, you're not going to win the Big Ten now, whatever. I get it. But at the same time, this team is going to be better in March than they are now. It's still December. We knew this going in. It's going to be tough. And you're going to have growing pains. You're going to have games when you look good, games when you don't look so good. Arkansas looked great. Tonight was not. So,
to me, be honest with you, I don't know about you guys. I don't care if they win the Big Ten. I really don't. I've seen enough celebrations. I want to get to the Final Four, try to win a national championship. That's what I want. And, well, if it's going to happen or not, I don't know. The three-point shooting to me is like, I'm just saying to you, it's just the shooting. The lack of shooting is just, well, not lack of shooting, when shots aren't falling. That's a concern for me.
Yeah, and look, I go back and I get it, because I always had a theory, though, that I always, in my mind, I'm like, okay, guy goes 1 for 5 and 1 for 6 from the three, and that's about all he's going to play, and I admit that's antiquated coaching. So and I don't have any state titles like Brad does. So,
well, I think the other hard thing about this is that when it's a very physical game and you're not allowed to go to the basket, because if you go to the basket, you could have your head taken off for no call. You weren't rewarded with free throws for attacking the basket.
Yeah, not at all.
Don't you remember Terrence Shannon, who's the Mr. Free throw rate last year? He couldn't get to the line at Northwestern last year when he came back. Right?
No, I'm with you.
So when you go and they don't foul, it's very difficult not to begin settling for threes. It's very difficult to not get paint touches. But I think the other part about it is they have to drive and get in the paint and then move the ball. So I think that's part of it too. Get in the paint and then kick out. So like they're over here. Like I do think we have a comment here about running end of game offense up 4 with 2 minutes left was a decision too. I wish they would have ran end of the game offense after they got the offensive rebound up by 5 with the ball. But they ran a quick shot for Will Riley off 24 feet going to his line. Evidently that was the design play. I don't know. But the first time they ran just dribbled out at half court and then had to run late shot clock, take a bad shot, whatever. That was I didn't like that. I thought you keep playing. But once you get the rebound, then take a better shot. I mean, if you're going to take a shot early in the shot clock, take a good one. If you get a good one, take it. But if you're not going to but you have to run offense. And I think that's where we get we get bogged down, and they just kind of stand and it just, Northwestern was switching every ball screen. You knew what they were going to do. Get a matchup you want, just like Northwestern did to Illinois. Get the matchup you want. Whoever you wanted KJ going against, get him on him. Or Will Riley, if you want him attacking, whatever. Set it up with that ball screen if they're going to switch it. And it really would have been, I don't know why they didn't do that. They didn't make that adjustment.
Yeah, we've seen that. The highlight of that was LeBron back in 2016, whatever, when they would they would set him up against Curry, in the finals and let LeBron drive. And I do think that that was definitely an opportunity for Illinois. And again, I want to go again. This is something that when we talk about the way the game is called, it's not, I don't know that this necessarily favors one team or the other, but just makes it darn near unwatchable. And as a player, I always wanted to know what a foul was. I didn't want to have to guess, because I would go right up to the line to whatever a foul was, and try to play on that. And here, you could El Kabong some one time, and then the next time,
Yeah.
it's a problem. Now, I want to also say we were pretty accurate. We've said that there's going to be nights when you get a bunch of freshmen, particularly on the road in the Big Ten, going to be frustrated by the results. This still isn't anywhere close to, Rutgers going and losing to Kennesaw State. But, I also think from watching the first few games of Big Ten, I'm not remotely concerned about anything. And even I wouldn't want Illinois to go 0-2. But even if they do, I don't think there's no Zekidi-led team in this. There's no Kofi Coburn, Io DeSumo team right now. And I think Illinois just has to get better every game, and they got to learn. And I think they'll be fine when it's all said and done.
When I look at the teams I've seen play right now, the teams that impress me, I like Oregon, I like Illinois, I like Purdue, I like Wisconsin. To me, those are the teams right now that I see, not just because they're ranked. Those teams just look really, really good to me. Those teams are tough. And I have to throw Michigan in there. Sorry. I have to give them credit as well because they did go to Madison and beat Michigan as well.
This is the Run My Own Business dream. This is the colleges paid for dream. This is the retire early dream. This is Busey, where your dreams and possibilities become moments through trusted guidance and expertise, through lifelong relationships. Because we're here to help you achieve the life you've always envisioned.
I'm trying to figure out if Morez would be happy to be termed a 6'9" bowling ball. I know that was meant in a positive way. I'm just not certain if Morez has ever been called that in a positive way. First time for everything.
I think what they make comments. Brad was talking about Morez and his role. I'm not suggesting he plays 35 minutes a game, but he is a freshman like Kasparis and Ibisevic. He should get 20 minutes a game to me, especially in a game tonight where he might have been, we don't know, been effective defensively. I think that's what people are saying. I'm not saying, because I know everybody loves the backup quarterback. I think that's great. I'm not saying that. I just think he was so effective tonight and strong enough where he gets loose balls. You're not taking the ball from him. And he's strong enough to where all of his points obviously came on the block because he doesn't look to shoot. That's what I was saying just for him from that standpoint. I would have tried that look and, at least give him a different look defensively because Henrik House, it just wasn't his night. And the world's not going to come to an end because of it. The sun's going to come up tomorrow.
If I told you, Ked, before the game that Rickhouse, Boswell, and Riley would combine to go 1 for 18 from the 3-point line, would you have predicted a victory or a defeat?
I'm telling you, this my opinion. I don't know about you two. In my opinion, that's why they lost the game. They were 1 for 18.
Yeah, the shooting.
It wasn't anything the officiating the second half. I think they must have heard our halftime show, heard me complain because I didn't have any smoke with that in the second half. Sorry, bad choice.
Evidently, only Europeans could shoot tonight. They were 8 for 15. If you were from the North America, you were 1 for 19. So,
well, Brad, that
baskets must be different.
That update you did for IlliniGuys for the subscribers on who they're looking at in Europe, that's looking a lot better, I guess, because if we could get more shooting like that, Illinois.
Euros, the Americans can't shoot.
Well, and this one's one where one of the things that Will Riley's parents, because Ked, again, IlliniGuys subscribers know this, but Ked interviewed mom, and she talked about being physically getting training, from Fletch. And while he's a good player, I mean, he's going to be an excellent player. I thought the ability to get pushed off of the line really hurt him. And I think, Fletch would be very valuable. And I know he's probably going to go pro at the end of the year, but there's a part of me that says another 12 months of training might be a great thing for him from an NBA standpoint.
But Brad said it. They all got pushed off the block tonight. They, wasn't just him, and how he was so frustrated and aggressive in the first half. You saw what the NBA scouts liked in him, and all the people out there listening. I'm not a drinker. I don't drink or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, watching KJ makes me want to just toast myself because he could be so frustrating to coach. You watch a guy who will make a great pass and turn it over 4 times, and then he made shots tonight like Terrence Shannon or Michael Jordan. He was just, some of those shots he was falling over. The 1-3 he shot, he got fouled on. He's a tough kid to coach, and like Brad told us at the beginning of the year, you have to live with his mistakes because you saw the good in him tonight.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, you can't ask for more than what he gave you. And he's gotten better defensively. Obviously, him getting switched on to Martinelli was not an ideal thing, but he's gotten a lot better defensively at guarding guards. But this is where they are going to struggle a little bit when the game is like this. And this is why kind of, we talked about that a little bit. Remember, Illinois won they were really good in the Big Ten when they had Kofi. They were always in the mix to win the Big Ten because it fit the style. This team doesn't really fit it. They aren't a Big Ten style team.
They're an NCAA team,
but they are a team that you do not want to play in March. I mean, they're going to fare better. I thought last year's team could do a little bit of both. They they just had Purdue in the same league, and Purdue had, the ultimate, big guy that was a kind of a change things. But I thought this year's team is much more of an NCAA. They don't have that, and maybe they do. I do think that. And something I will agree with what Ked said about Merez. Merez Johnson Ivicic played 38 minutes or something like that. And it's no wonder he's a little bit tired at the end. I mean, that's a lot of minutes for 7'1" guys to 250 pounders to log. And so they don't really give him enough of a break. I feel like Merez could come in there and maybe he plays 35 minutes. Do you really think you lose 35 to 15? I mean, whatever.
He's not going to hurt you that bad now.
That's what I mean. I mean,
yep.
He's good, and he's going to do things like he's going to attack the glass. He's going to rebound, and he gives you a motor. We've talked about that. His motor has always been, he's a great rebounder. He is one of the, he doesn't have enough minutes right now to register in the stats, but I think he might be one of the top. I think he's one of the top 5 top 4 offensive rebounders in the country right now in rebounding rate. I mean, that's really good. I think at a defensive rebounding rate, he is literally he is top 10 in defensive rebounding rate if he had enough minutes to qualify. That's fantastic. I mean, so if you're bemoaning rebounding, as we know Brad did in the postgame, you let this guy play a little more. I mean,
so I have a question.
But I'm not thinking he needs to be 35 minutes like Ken said. But get him 15, get him 18.
So here I have a question for Brad and Ked, and this is something you can help out our listeners and watchers with. So you've got a team like Northwestern that's trying to slow the game down, which we're going to see with Purdue. We're going to see it with Wisconsin. What can you do as a coach to try to speed a team like that up and regain the initiative with the pace of a game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is score. If you're ahead, Illinois was up 10. Illinois up 10, and they had you can't have bad offensive possessions. I think they get late.
And they had multiple.
Bunch of bad offensive possessions. Just handed the ball to them, took terrible shots, all those things. If you take bad, that allows them the opportunity then to they go down and score, they can still grind, they stay within reach. If Illinois goes up from 10 to 15, they can't play the same way. They can't walk it down, back it into the paint, and use booty ball to come back. I mean, it just doesn't work. Now, I will say, I thought Northwestern actually pushed the ball because they got turnovers.
They did. When they got the turnover, they did use it that way. You're correct.
That's what they did. So they had, they only had 7 points off turnovers, but that was more than Illinois had. Illinois had 4 points off turnovers. So it's a little bit more, but you saw them get out in transition. I mean, Illinois had, what was it? They had 2 fast break points in this game. And that was one of the things Brad talked about. We weren't going to have that this year. They weren't going to have a Terrence Shannon who can get out and, get those fast break points and do those things. And that's where I think that, they don't have that kind of bailout yet. They haven't figured out what's my bailout on offense when we shoot 9 for 34 from 3, when, everybody but KJ shoots 3 for 24 from 3. So, and all people from North America shoot 1 for 19. So, that they don't have kind of the equalizer for that at this point.
Well, here's my answer to your coaching question, Mike. You're right. They're up by 10 points. How did you get up by 10 by running the basketball? You let Northwestern dictate the tempo, and that's not how you got the lead. And I don't understand that. If you look on the sideline, you could see Brad waving his arms, push the ball. As soon as the lead got cut to 6, 7, or 8, you saw Kylan Boswell standing at half court and wait till the shot clock runs down. That's how you avoid that. My opinion as a coach, I will never, ever let a team dictate what I want to do. I will always dictate tempo defensively. My philosophy is this: if a team throws a box of 1-3-2, 2-2-1, 1-1-3-1, you have to have offensive and defensive sets to make them pay for it. Illinois is a running basketball team, and they let Northwestern in the second half dictate that. And another thing Brad talked about, which is right. If you're up by 15, guess what? That rim gets a little bit smaller, because now you're stacking up shots that you don't want to shoot because you're down by 15. Then you look up at the clock, you think, oh my gosh, is this to go in the game? We got to score. That's why I don't let them do that. When I saw Kylan slow the ball down, I knew then, I'm thinking, there's no way. This is where the youth of this team sets in. Because if it's me, you put your foot on the gas and you continue to attack. That's what got you the lead. That's what my philosophy will be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So you go back and look at the play-by-play. Illinois was up 10 and had the ball with 9:48 to play. And they didn't score again until the 5:47 mark. So 4 minutes, they didn't score. They didn't make a shot for 4 minutes. They had turnovers. They had a missed wide open 3, another missed 3. Even got the offensive rebound after that missed 3, and then they turned it over. Then they get the ball back. They miss a inside shot. Riley missed a layup. They had Ivasic got his 3-pointer blocked. They missed the dunk, but then they come down and Ivasic turns it over, and then they get the and one at the other end, or 2 shot. I guess it was and one. Yeah. So then you go down, and then you've got another missed wide open 3. Then they come to. I mean, it's crazy. Then Boswell had that wide open 3 from the corner that hit everything and rolled around and went out. They get it back, and then he missed a bad 3. I thought, and then you go through, and then KJ finally hits a 3, but it was, and then we finally get him Rickhouse making a 3, and you think, well, we're okay, 5:12 to go, you're up 6, you're in a good spot, but again, unable to kind of close it out, unable to.
Well, he goes 0 for 3 from that point, because that 3, which made him 1 for 6, which I thought, okay, that was nothing but bottom of the net. That takes some guts.
Then you think like, okay, now he's got it. Now he's going to make the next one. But then I thought, they're up 5, and they have the ball with 30-second timeout, 2:05 to play. You're up 5. You come out of a timeout. There's 14 seconds on the shot clock, and you take a wild 3 6 seconds later. I mean, it was like, I still think that was just the one spot where you just had a chance to kind of throw a dagger at them and take that lead and put them away.
Yeah, you go up by 8 if you get a good shot. Yeah.
That's a disadvantage of having a young team, and hopefully that they'll learn from it. Like we've all said, in March, maybe they'll get better from it. It is a bad loss. People say, "Oh, not a bad loss." I know Coach would say, "Give Northwestern credit." Okay, but they're a better basketball team. I give them credit. Illinois is a better team. This is a bad loss to me because you're not going to get many opportunities to win on the road, and this was one that they let slip away.
Yeah, I give Northwestern credit, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't beat them. You know what I mean? Hey, give them credit for not sucking, but that doesn't mean that you can't win the game. Yeah, I get it. I mean, that's coach speak. I will guarantee you that Brad Underwood is pissed as hell that they lost this game. I mean, there is no doubt about it. I mean, a few years ago,
Yes,
there would have been paint coming off the walls of the locker room. You know, he's changed a little bit, but he's very pissed, and they're going to have a couple of really good practices, I guarantee you, over the next 3 days.
Yeah, and I like we said, it's frustrating because you get the feeling that you let one get away on the road, and those road victories are usually the difference between who wins the league and who doesn't.
Yep.
And so that was disappointing that you couldn't pull that one out. At the same time, you know, we also knew that they were going to play like freshmen because many of them are freshmen.
I thought they handled it pretty well, though. I mean, to be freshmen, you know, I'm not sold on Robbie Hummel. I'm really sorry. We all have our favorites. He bragged about how good they are, and they are. I don't think they played terrible as freshmen. I didn't see a lot of jitters. This was their true first road game. I didn't see any nerves from any of those guys tonight. I really didn't.
Yeah, I mean, your old guys, your two old guys, Boswell and Humrickhouse, were probably your guys who struggled the most of all of them. I thought Will Riley down the stretch was probably the one guy I thought, and I think Ivasic got tired. That would be my take. I thought Ivasic got tired, and I thought, because you're basically, you know, you have Ivasic, and you're having him set those high ball screens all game long, then run down and play defense in the paint, battle against a physical guy like Nicholson, and then you're going to run, you know, he's got to shoot, he's got to do all these things for 38 minutes. I think he gets tired. So I thought he was fine. I didn't think it was his best game, but I thought he was okay. You know, and he's going to have his numbers are you know, solid. But I thought, you know, Will Riley, I thought was first half was huge. And then I thought in the second half, he maybe got a little bit shot happy. And I wonder, here's my one thing about Will tonight. Did he see KJ making plays and start thinking, I got to go make a play? I mean, like, it kind of looked like it didn't. It kind of looked like it. It's like he came back. Oh, KJ, man, I got to show. I'm, you know, it's like, because I wonder, and I said this, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I do wonder sometimes whether they are really thinking about like the NBA draft even while they're playing. I mean, like, and I wonder, because I just don't know who's the guy on this team. I think Morez might be the one guy on this team. I think Ty Rodgers was that guy. Who's the guy who cares only about winning the game? Like, I mean, I'm going to do whatever I can to win this game. Like, if it means I got to dive on the floor, if it means I got to do this, that. I didn't see that same edge tonight.
Two guys. I think there's 2.5 guys.
I think Draven does too.
Draven does it, and Morez, and I really think if Trey White was given the opportunity, I think he would too. He's a half.
Yeah. But I mean, do you see? You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm playing hard. I'm just saying, like, it's not like, and maybe I have a character flaw, because if I'm playing a pickup basketball game, like winning that pickup basketball game when I was that age was the most important thing in my life during that moment. Like, I mean, it was, and when I was pitching, that was the most important thing in my life. Like, I mean, it was like, if I lost, like, life was over. Like, it was a failure. And I understand that's not a great way to be, but that competitiveness, do you see those competitive juices from these guys at this point? And some of that's being young. They haven't been through the wars yet, but I don't know. I mean, I wonder.
You know, someone made the comment to me during the game. If you look at last year's group, really was connected. These kids may get along. They may get along off the court, but on the court, Brad, I didn't want to say that, but that's what I think sometimes. They don't look connected. They don't look fluid. They don't look natural on the court together right now. You have some outstanding players. You've had some outstanding plays. But like last year, you knew when Marcus got the ball, it's okay for him to do that. And it didn't matter if Tannen had to be the ball distributor, you know, or Coleman Hawkins. They don't, you know, I don't see that right now. I hope we do see it. I hope that, and, you know, and we can pretend, for the people out there who are listening to this podcast and don't know, and whether you like it or not, there are two guys on that roster that are probably going to be drafted in the first round. If they go to, almost certain one of them is probably going to be a lottery pick. And that is a fact. And no matter what draft board you look at, they're all over it. So I'm not saying that's why. I hope that's not why. But I know in the back of their mind, I can't blame them because they're young. If you're a young kid like that and, you've got millions of dollars and, people coming to watch you play every night, it's kind of hard to not want to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's what I would tell a player like that. There's a lot of players over the years who had the physical skills or close to the physical skills of a Michael Jordan. Maybe a fewer who had the skills or the size and stuff that LeBron puts out there, but there are guys in the league who are comparable. But if you really want to win and you do whatever it takes to win the way Jordan did, the way LeBron, does, the way, Bill Russell did, you can make a lot of money doing that. And that's really what differentiates the greatest players. I mean, Tom Brady isn't the biggest guy or the strongest guy, even in the quarterback position. But my Lord, he does whatever he needs to do to win. And that means preparation, and that means play, being a team player, all those things. And maybe they just need to think about that as opposed to if I can make the highlight reel, because I'll tell you right now, Ivicic's 2 passes were about as you're not going to beat those too often on the highlight reel. And so, but looking at that, I don't think guys nowadays really understand what being a team player can do for you from a dollar standpoint in these leagues, because again, I'm not trying to be this way, but there's a lot of talented guys in the NBA and there's a lot of talented guys in the NFL, but it's the ones who are the got the right mental attitude that are the great ones.
There's also a lot of talented guys that aren't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's your point, right? I mean, there's a lot of that to it. Yeah, I the one thing I would say is I totally agree with you. They have to find that edge. Rarely do 18, 19-year-old guys have that. There's a few guys that do, but they learn it. And last year's team was old, so they're not going to be the same team. And last year's team lost at Northwestern, right? I mean,
yeah, and like I said, folks, we aren't panicking. It's just this was one of those games that you could see. Just all you had to do is just reach out and grab it, and they just couldn't do it. And that's part of why Underwood likes old teams, right?
Yep.
Because he likes a little less stress. And what's ironic is Underwood's like a terror in the Big Ten since he's got here, except at Northwestern.
Yeah.
Of all places.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's crazy, isn't it?
Chicago's Big Ten team.
Yep, and I don't think they're bad. I mean, this wasn't like I think Northwestern's fine. I think Illinois just has to figure out how to handle physicality that they're going to get from Wisconsin. In slower.
And you're not going to get the calls. So you have to come into that game thinking, you know what, I'm going to initiate contact, and I'll probably get the charge for it. You know what I mean? You just got to, because if you start doing this thing where you start leaning backwards and then on top of that, then you start looking at the ref like, why didn't you call that? Then you get caught in the Coleman-Hawkins paradox, and that's just.
Well, that's what KJ did. I mean, that's what Brad and I were talking about.
That's what he did early on. But he got away from that, Ked. He didn't do that as much in the second half.
I wish he would have went up and he would have done. He would have got a foul, or at least tried.
You know what? I was watching his steps, and I just think he thought he could. I just think he thought he was. I don't think he thought what's his face was so close to him.
He wasn't looking. He had his back to him. That's what it was.
And he didn't see it coming. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Northwestern and Purdue are the 2 slowest paced teams in the Big Ten and Minnesota. So what you do is but here's what happens. You know what teams do? That's how they compete. Is they play because they want to limit possessions. That allows them to hang around. But at the same time, that's why you can't have those lackadaisical things. Veteran teams tend not to make those same mistakes.
And they value a possession more.
They value those possessions.
I watch 4 or 5 minute scoring droughts. Even if you're not going to make a basket, get to the line. That you can't do.
I watch high school games tonight, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I'm going, "Oh no, that's a terrible shot. What are we doing? Quit dribbling. Pass the ball." It's the same thing. And I think it's so hard to watch when they don't value possessions and value the ball. And that's, I think Illinois doesn't. They're not quite where they need to be in that regard.
Final thoughts from each one of you, and then we'll wrap this up so that people can get to bed and get all rested up for the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 championship games tomorrow. Brad?
Well,
My final thoughts is, so you remember how I tell what I said was the key point in that game? Just got a text from a college assistant coach, not in Illinois, who texted me and said that 3 was the turning point in the game. So I'm not as dumb as I appear. So, but no, I think this is just one game. It's just one game. You got to find a way next time to you got to find a way to beat Wisconsin. That's the next game, next man up type thing. You play it one game at a time. You're going to have some bad losses. We said that. And that's the way, you got to just build yourself and keep improving and being able to win these close games because you're going to have a bunch of them.
To me, tomorrow is a lecture day. Don't get a basketball, don't put a ball in their hands, get the film. One time people are really critical. Coach Underwood calling timeouts or not drawing up plays. They drew up a really, really good play tonight where Will Riley could have went up and dunked it, tried to reverse it and missed it. Those are things that you need to convert on. I want to see them get better. That's the biggest thing because the talent is there. There's nothing you can do about the Northwestern loss over. Get the iPads out. Give the players their individual highlights and lowlights, low points of the game. Figure it out, and then go back to the drawing board. And one of the things Coach Underwood talks about for those people who are listening, he admitted that they're kind of getting soft in the rebounding department. I think he's going to make some changes with that. So he didn't like the offensive rebounding production, so maybe you'll see a little bit tougher team on Wednesday. But next game up, you can't go 0-2, especially because it's at home. If you want to have any aspirations of finishing in the upper half of the Big Ten, top 3 or 4, you can't lose at home.
Yeah, and that's a good one. And of course, people will give Coach Underwood a lot of suggestions as to how to cure the rebounding thing. So Morez is definitely going to be a guy who gets a lot of attention from people. We talked about that. You end up with the second string is the individual who gets all the attention. But I will say, folks, if you are looking at a time to ever think about joining the Illini guys, this would be a time to be a subscriber. We have just until Sunday, so you got to hurry up and get it. But there is a deal where you do the normal $100 and you get a free Illini Guys tumbler. So make sure that you go look at that. And of course, this gives you all the articles. You don't have a paywall in your way, so you get to read the whole thing. You also get some of these earlier. A lot of times we'll put up Ked or Matt's stories ahead of time for subscribers back on our message boards. We also have the game room where you can actually watch the game live and be in a live chat with Illini fans around the world. And the message boards are so good because not only can you talk with Illini fans across the world, but you can ask Matt, Ked, Brad, Larry, myself about things we do and say or write and get a conversation going. It's not like being a newspaper subscriber where you just read what they say and move on with your day. I think it really does change things up a little bit. And I would encourage you to go ahead and look at this. $99 a year and you get a free tumbler. This is the perfect time. And if you know a good Illini fan, you're looking for a gift to get them, what could you possibly get them better than this? I don't think anything. So we'd love to have you do that. And of course, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts. Eye on the Illini, Illini Guys Sports Spectacular, Big Sports Radio, My Heat Checks and Hail Marys, Ked's Recruiting Roundup. You can get those on your favorite podcast distributor. And of course, you can go to the IlliniGuys.com YouTube channel. If you have a strong stomach, you can go ahead and subscribe there and see us from a visual standpoint. So with that, folks, we will be back later on. And of course, we will have the Tuesday night, we will have the Wisconsin game. That should be an exciting one. And it's not going to be an easy one because that's just not the way things work in the Big Ten. Until then, go Illini.